everyone, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann, and this is the award-winning Fan Show. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you. I know this is not Thursday. This is not even 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. We're a different night. We're a slightly different time, but it's you do what you can. When life gives you lemons, you hope somebody else brought you vodka. That's really what this all boils down to, is that we are here Friday night because I wanted to make sure I got in 2 episodes this week because I felt like there was a lot that was happening, and we'll get to that in our headlines, but also just the simple fact that I want to try to get back into a regular routine of everything, and 2 episodes really helps the week go by a lot better. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of preparation for the upcoming IFL season, the upcoming XFL season, which I won't be a part of, but it's still exciting to have a new league. Last year there was a lot of hype about the AAF. This will be the second incarnation of the XFL. So we certainly hope that things turn out better for this second go, and obviously knowing that the AAF failed so miserably last year. So with that, there's stuff to talk about, but I wanted to get on here. I wanted to say hello and do what we do here on the Fan Show, where everyone's a fan of something, and we have got something for every fan. And before we get to headlines, every time I come on here for the last going on almost 2 years now, actually, I think about it, it's been, almost 2 years to the day that I was voted Spokane's best media by the Spokane Entrepreneurship Awards, and it was a very great feeling. In fact, I have that trophy here somewhere. Where are you, trophy? It's one of my favorite trophies ever. It's this guy right here, as you see, and I love it. I really do. It's a light bulb because it was entrepreneurship, so the idea there to build something, and when it came to media, I guess that was quite the category. There were several nominees, and I got most of the votes. Enough, obviously, to win that, but it was a great moment for the Fan Show, great moment for me, for my wife who was there with me to accept the award. And, it might not mean a lot to people outside of Spokane or outside that circle, but it meant a hell of a lot to us just to know that we had worked so hard to build something that we think is special. So almost 2 years. That was February 15th, 2018. And so February 15th, 2020, we'll celebrate the 2-year anniversary of that. But it reminds me that they are doing the best of voting in Spokane right now. I mean, you're probably thinking, what does it matter what they're doing in Spokane? Well, because here's the thing. The Inlander local newspaper, I call it the Indylander because it's for guys that have man buns and enjoy craft beer. It really is. And so they do their best of every year for Spokane. And there's just gobs of categories, right? You've got everything from the best tacos to the best Mexican restaurant. I mean, it gets very specific. And there's a sports one, and there's a music and arts one, but nowhere in there for the last, as long as I've done the Fan Show, has there ever been a best podcast or best podcast host. There has been best local DJ, even best DJ crew or team, best sportscaster, best radio station. I mean, they've covered everything around podcasting, but never the best podcast or the best podcast host. Well, at the end of the survey where you vote and you have to fill in X amount of blanks before your votes count, you can put, what should we add next year? And there's a blank space. And for the last 3 years, I've been putting best podcast, send. So the year that they finally do it, I'm in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. However, here's the loophole. Here's the fine print. This is for 2019. I was still very much a Spokane resident all the way up until December 1st of 2019. So if you are in the Spokane area I encourage you to go to inlander.com/best-of and vote for the Fan Show as the best podcast. It'll be the last and probably only time I will ever be able to win the award. So if you guys could help me out with that, it would be fantastic, because I think 2019 was obviously a big year for me, just on an individual basis, but as a whole, the Fan Show did a lot of really great things, both locally and outside the Spokane bubble. So I don't think there's a better nominee. In fact, I don't know many other podcasts other than Dees Casillas, but he's more comedian than podcast host. He even said it himself. He's like, look, I totally voted for you. And I voted for him as best comic last year, and he won. And there's a funny story behind that. But I don't know of any other podcasts that really like ring a bell that a light goes off for the Spokane area. So, even if it's, you were the only nominee, it's still nice to win. So hopefully we can add one more to the award-winning Fan Show phrase of the intro. With that, I'd like to go ahead and say hello to everybody joining us on Facebook Live, which is where we broadcast the show live simultaneously while we record it in podcast form on Spreaker.com. And that is Barry, Greg, Matt, I see Zach, and Connor. Ooh, Mr. Hollenbeck, how you doing, sir? We are very close to the IFL 2020 season kickoff. In fact, 43 days. But before we get too far into that, we have our due diligence here, all of our bases to cover and folks to make happy, and that is, of course, with today's headlines. So here we go. Let's get right to it. Headlines, of course, brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises. They want to help customize your world, and the way that they can do that is if you reach out to Ethan at dynamiteenterprises.com, or, of course, you can visit the website, dynamiteenterprises.com, and see what they have to offer that they can put your logo or artwork on it. In fact, there's so many things that we've been talking about around the office for the Sioux Falls Storm about things that maybe Dynamite Enterprises could do for us, which is great. I definitely wanted to keep that relationship with Ethan. He's done so much for the Fan Show, and he does so much for people locally. So speaking of locally, best of, if there's a best place to get your stuff done as far as if you need t-shirts, hats, beanies, polos, jerseys, trophies, tablecloths, backdrops, you name it, they're the best of Spokane to do it, plain and simple. So good, in fact, that I've brought that relationship over here to Sioux Falls, South Dakota with me. So today we have a very important sort of, thing to discuss, and that is the Eli Manning has announced his retirement. So obviously that is one of our headlines today. Eli Manning, we found out, I think right after I went off the air Tuesday night, that he was going to announce his retirement today, and he has done so. And so that raises the question that we will pose to you, the people of Fan Nation. Is he Hall of Fame worthy? You see the stats right there. Of course, he is the only quarterback in history to defeat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl twice. That's right. You got to add twice because Nick Foles did it too. And wow, how crazy is it to think that Brady has gone into the biggest stage of them all, and he's beaten some great guys. To get to the Super Bowl, he's beaten some great quarterbacks. But the two that have beat him, I don't think anybody would have thought that it would have been Eli Manning 2 times and Nick Foles to do it. So we'll go ahead and open up that question, that can of worms, while we get through the rest of the headlines. So, question to you, Eli Manning, Hall of Fame, yes or no? And if you're going to say yes, I want you to defend your answer, so to speak, with something other than his 2 Super Bowl rings. My guest today, Darrell Lee Owens, and I actually talked about how if you look past the 2 Super Bowl championships and the 2 wins over who they were over, Tom Brady, I think, also adds a little bit extra to that. He's a part of some pivotal moments in the NFL, both regular season, postseason, and getting to the Super Bowl. So we go over that, and those may alone make him Hall of Fame worthy, if not for his 2 championships in defeating the Patriots and Tom Brady. So we'll go ahead and open that up. Headlines are 9 days until the Super Bowl. So that's, we're counting them down. Super Bowl 54, 49ers and Chiefs, February 2nd, 2020 on Fox. We get to listen to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman call this one. We are 43 days away from the 2020 IFL season kickoff. They have a meeting this weekend, the owners and coaches down in, I believe, Frisco, Texas, to discuss some last-minute items on their agenda. 15 days from XFL kickoff. And today, my attire is not by accident. I am, in fact, wearing a Pirates jersey. Pirates of the National Arena League, the Massachusetts Pirates. And some of you may be thinking, why would you be wearing a Pirates jersey? You're an IFL guy. I am an IFL guy. Look, there's no getting over that. But it's whose jersey am I wearing? That's number 47, Nick Hague, my man, the Beast from the East, signed with the Pirates today. He will return to Mass for the 2020 season. And look, the reason that this is so significant is because it's been a very difficult time for a lot of AFL players trying to find a home with so much stuff going on that's really out of their control. It's very much beyond their control, but it's a mess. It's not pretty. And the IFL has made their decision as far as signing guys or not, and the NAL has made their decision, obviously. So I'm just happy when these guys get to play. And, you know, as much as I would love to have a seat at the table of the IFL when these discussions get made, maybe in a few years. A few years ago, I had to pretty much beg for scraps from the people clearing off the head table. And now I have a seat at a table, but it's not the head table. But it's still, a step in the right direction. But it's just a tough time. So seeing him announce that he was signing with Massachusetts Pirates today warms my heart, because I know how much he just loves to play the game. And that's the difficult thing for a lot of these guys, is that they just love to play the game. They just want to go somewhere and play for as long as they can and maybe get a chance to get to that next level. So congratulations, Nick Hague, on signing with the Pirates. Hopefully we can see you back in the IFL next year. I would really love to have that happen. I really would. I don't want there to be hard feelings with anybody. I cover the IFL, yes. I work in the IFL. I work for a team in the IFL. And IFL is where my heart is. It's where my, extended family is, pretty much. And so when things like this happen, it hurts. It really does. And I don't like people to have ill will towards myself, who has no hand in it whatsoever, no say in it especially, or to anyone else really, when it comes down to things like votes and whatnot, and what they feel is best for the league. Whether I like it or not, whether others like it or not, that's just the simple facts of it. I see Matt says, "What's up, porn stash?" I can't wait for the beard to come back. I really can't. The stash just is not me. It's not a me look. It's really not. Barry says, "Look at that baby face." It's not, though. It's like, okay, baby face would have been if I had like a football team on my upper lip, 11 on each side. Haha. But he also says, "Go KC." Whatever. I'll delete your comment later. I won't. Let's see. Nigel says, "I'm looking for Richard Tiemann." Yeah, I'm looking for him too. He's out there somewhere. Adam says, "If Joe Namath is in the hall, then Eli should be in there as well, despite his somewhat meh stat." I think meh is probably one of the most accurate ways to describe Eli Manning's career. 57,000 yards passing, 366 touchdowns, 244 interceptions, and then a perfect 50-50 record, 117 and 117. What's honestly the biggest thing that I feel a lot of people are overlooking or maybe not noticing is that he was only a 4-time Pro Bowler. So you look at his stats, you see what he's done in his career. Second to last, it says 2-time Super Bowl MVP and a 4-time Pro Bowler. Guarantee you 2 of those Pro Bowls were during those 2 Super Bowl MVP runs. So outside of his 2 Super Bowl MVP caliber seasons, which I don't think anyone can take away those, his performances in the postseason against the likes of Green Bay, Brett Favre and Lambeau Field, are you kidding me? You can never take that away from him. But he was a Pro Bowler 4 times. I mean, and Antonio Gates retired, and that guy was like a 10-time Pro Bowler, right? No Super Bowl rings, just like Phillip Rivers, no rings. Will he ever get one? I don't know. But they've made the Pro Bowl just so many times. I mean, even Luke Kuechly, who had what some will call a short career, I think it was 8 years, and all of those 8 years, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going off memory here, but I believe Luke Kuechly, all 8 of his years in the NFL, he was a Pro Bowler. I mean, those are the kind of stats I'm looking at when I'm considering someone who is Hall of Fame worthy. Eli Manning went on the biggest stage of them all and beat what some people consider the greatest of all time to ever play the game and to ever coach the game, Belichick and Brady. I mean, they spoiled their attempt at the perfect season, and then they went and had a rematch, and they did it again, only they weren't in pursuit of a perfect season at that time, but you better believe revenge was probably on the brain, and they didn't get it. So he's done that. He beat Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers, the NFC team that nobody thought anybody could beat. In fact, I'm pretty sure people were getting ready to promote Brady Favre for the Super Bowl, the matchup that I'm going to guess 99.9% of people in the world wanted to see. But he took an 8-8 team and he ran the table. Before Aaron Rodgers even came up with running the table, Eli Manning and the Giants ran the table. Is that Hall of Fame worthy? I don't know. I'm glad it's not my decision to make, but if I had a vote in it, I would cast it for him because I think outside the Super Bowls, he still did enough that, depending on how you look at it, okay, so you have, let's go, for example, that Phillip Rivers was to win the Super Bowl this next year. So in 2021, the 2020-2021 season, Phillip Rivers goes and takes whatever team to the Super Bowl wins. You would then have the argument that Phillip Rivers had this amazing career that was probably Hall of Fame worthy, but that Super Bowl there, the last minute, the last year of his career, solidified it. With Eli Manning, you have the opposite. He has the 2 Super Bowls, yeah, but what else has he done? I feel like there is just enough there outside of his 2 Super Bowl wins that solidify him as a Hall of Famer. So it's just a matter of perspective and how you look at it. 2 very different ways to look at it. In fact, anybody that has had a lengthy career and they make it to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, I feel like that is just the icing on the cake, right? But if they win it early and it's their supporting cast that a lot of people like to give credit to, like I don't think that people are giving as much credit to Eli's Giants and their defense as they do Dilfer's Ravens in that defense. But still, it just comes down to the fact that Eli has had a really good career, and that good career helps back up his 2 Super Bowl MVP performances that will probably get him into the Hall of Fame. First ballot, no, but I mean, if he's going to be in no matter what, then might as well. So there's that. And let's see what else we've got here. Matt says probably why there's a waiting period for the Hall of Fame. Absolutely. Absolutely, I think. I'd like to know what the whole Hall of Fame process is like. I really would. I think it would be very interesting to know how that all happens. The Pro Bowl is happening, and what I mean by happening is that the game will be Sunday. Obviously, it's dead week in the NFL right now with the Pro Bowl, but the skills challenges are happening, and those poor bastards, it's Booger McFarland and Testator that are doing commentary. I say again, they're doing commentary for the skills challenges. Wow, man, you thought Booger was bad on Monday Night Football. Let me just say, Instagram, if you follow the NFL account, they will post video clips of the different highlights from the skills challenges. And when you click it, you hear the commentary, and it's Booger and Tess. And man, I say again, if you thought Booger was bad at Monday Night Football commentary, you need to treat yourself to some of that. He talks about strategy as if there really is a strategy in these skills challenges. And I'm not saying that there's not, but what I'm saying is the emphasis he places on, well, you got to respect his strategy here to go for those high corner targets worth 3 points because the DB can't deflect those passes. And it's just like, Okay. I would much rather they just play modern hip hop music while these guys throw. And then you have a guy chime in every time he either gets the points that he needs or misses. That's it. There's no need for lengthy, in-depth commentary on this. So I thought it was comical. Other than that, though, it's really been a slow week. The Super Bowl is, like I said, 9 days away. I can't wait. I can wait, but I can't wait. It's like I can because once the Super Bowl happens, if your team is in it, it's like that really is the last game until next year. And it's been such an incredible season for the 49ers. Like, you don't want it to end, but you know that if it's going to end, this is the best way to end it. So I personally love the fact that my team is in the Super Bowl and that the finale of the entire NFL season is also my team's finale. Just hope they get a W. Nigel says 43 days left. Wow, I'm excited. I'm very excited too. I think the IFL season starts at, especially this year, because we're starting in March. We're not starting at the end of February. There's going to be just enough off time that we're going to start getting that itch back for football that we'll be ready for IFL season to start again. So, let me remind all of you that believe that there is no football after February 2nd. You are incorrect. And if you're going to say XFL, I will slap you first because IFL has been doing it for a while. But yes, you can argue XFL will be here too. And does that really count? Absolutely it counts. But, I mean, if you want football, but in a more confined space with padded walls and higher scoring, I mean, indoor football is the place to watch. It is fundamental football, complete with defense and a running game. There's no punting. I mean, my God, you talk about people arguing if the NFL should eliminate punting. This sport takes care of that for you. It's like they heard your cries years ago. But really it's because the field's too short to be like, you're going to punt, really? No, stop it. Just try for a field goal. You've got the leg. You should make it. Kickers need love too. I can't wait for that segment to come back this year. In fact, I was going to have Cody Barber on tonight's show from Bismarck because he will return to Bismarck. Kenneth Van Huel has signed with Bismarck, so those are our Dakota neighbors. And we're very excited to host them for our home opener in Sioux Falls. And then, of course, we get Quad City, we get Green Bay, we get Iowa. I love the Midwest makeup for the IFL. I really do. It's a lot of fun. And I've gone from being about 15 hours from the closest team when I was in Spokane to now being about 4 to 6 hour drive from like 5 or 6 different teams. I love it. I really do. Now, I don't know if that means anything for the fan show tour because it's all going to depend on my availability. I would love nothing more than either during a bye week or if there's a game that the Storm play on Saturday and then there's an Iowa game on Sunday that I can make that happen. But I don't know. We're all pretty new at this between the ownership and especially myself. Don't know how it's going to work, but I will still do the fan show coverage of the IFL because it's important. It really is. We'll do highlights and all that stuff, top 10 plays. It'll be good. So I think that about does it. So remember, visit inlander.com/best of. Even if you're not from Spokane, I'm sure you can make up enough names in there, especially in the food portion. You can put chain restaurants down if you want, for all I care, for your vote to count. But just under arts and then best local podcast, fill in the fan show. And we'll see if we can add another award to the award-winning fan show. So, Eli Manning, Hall of Famer. Let's get the last comments here. I see Devin has joined us. Good to see you, Devin. Adam says, in other news, the Antonio Brown saga is just going downhill more and more. Dude, I don't think I've ever seen someone fall from grace so fast, so hard. Like, I was thinking about it today. It's just like, wow. Like, the difference a year makes. My God, the difference like 3 months makes. That dude has been out of control. I do think that there is some type of issue in regards to mental health playing a part there. I really do. And I want him to get help. People can make fun of him all they want. He does kind of bring it on himself on social media. But it is interesting to see the difference in treatment by people on social media to Antonio Brown, as well as the former NBA player that was recently, a video went viral because he's now homeless and I think a drug addict. Not an NBA follower, but you probably know what I'm talking about. So very interesting, the two types of contradicting reactions to those. Obviously, Antonio Brown is not homeless, is not a drug addict, not down on his luck. He's just Antonio Brown. Like, I don't know how else to say this. Devin says Vontaze Burfict messed him up. It really, you say that, and I don't know if you were kind of like, haha, but that very well could have been the moment. NFL is all about turning points. That could have been Antonio Brown's turning point. Was that Burfict hit? It really could have. It could have been the catalyst to everything that we're seeing now. He also says Delonte West. Yes, that's right. Delonte West is the NBA player who's struggling right now. But they are different circumstances, absolutely. It's just interesting to me to see the different reactions from social media and people that are going after Antonio Brown and have gone after Delonte West, but now more people are like empathizing for Delonte West. And I think it's largely in part due to the fact that his issues are known. He is a drug addict and he is homeless. Antonio Brown, nobody's quite sure what's really going on with him just yet. Devin says, no joking, I think that hit really messed him up. I will agree with you. I think it did too. Nigel says defense for Super Bowl will win. Yeah, I'd love to see the 49ers win for a lot of things. Now look, okay, I've made it very clear on the show before that we're not the Browns who have gone through endless years of suffering. I can't relate to that. However, there have been some very hard years for the 49ers. And as an avid fan, and there's certain fan bases out there that just expect their teams to be good because that's been the bar that's been set. I do get irked at New England fans who will leave before the end of the game because they're losing to a team, even though they have a winning record and are still probably going to be in the postseason. To hear boos when they're at home and losing to a team like maybe the Dolphins, it irks me because I feel like that's a level of fan arrogance that only a few teams can relate to and achieve. So me as a 49ers fan, like, yeah, they've won 5 Super Bowls, been to 6, now 7. I have witnessed one. I can't remember the 94 Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? Who can? If you say that you can and you're my age, you're lying. So, yeah, there's a history there. There's a legacy, but I would like to witness my own. Just the fact that they've been called pretenders all season, that Ryan Tannehill got the vote for Comeback Player of the Year over Jimmy Garoppolo, and there's been so much knocking of this team. I mean, they only had 4 guys get voted to the Pro Bowl, and now none of them will go because they're going to play in the Super Bowl, where the Ravens had like a whole team voted to the Pro Bowl. And the Pro Bowl vote is a joke, and I've discussed that on the show before. But there's just a lot of chips you could put on shoulders for this 49ers team going into the Super Bowl, and I really love that about this team. I hope they come out to the Pretender by Foo Fighters. I think that would be a lot of fun. Speaking of music, are we at 10? The 10th annual Super Bowl of All Things Rock and Roll will be starting Monday, so make sure that you're following along for that. That'll be a lot of fun. Let's see what else we've got here. Adam says the Dallas Cowboys forever 8-8. I don't know, man. McCarthy, I think, might turn them around. Depends on how much involvement Jerry has. Nigel says, how you feel about Reeves talking mess about Richard Sherman? Reeves and Sherman. That's entertaining. Look, I will say that I think Reeves is the more talented defender over Sherman, but that's only because Reeves had to pretty much do it all himself, where Sherman was on the Legion of Boom, and it didn't have to come down to just him. I still think Sherman is incredibly talented, but if you take away the supporting cast, like, who stands out? And of course, Reeves has gone to great lengths to say, that they're different styles of defense, and he plays zone and I play man. And look, the fact is that, Richard Sherman, like he says, is going to the Super Bowl, has hit all of his incentives for the contract that he himself negotiated without the help of an agent, and Revis is on his couch. So, I mean, take it for what it's worth, but that's my feelings on it. It's been very entertaining, but at the end of the day, Sherman does get the last laugh right now. Adam says, and I say that as a Cowboys fan, starts laughing but ends crying. I feel you. I think, though, that Eli Manning retiring with a record of 117 and 117, he should take the mantle from Jeff Fisher as Mr. 50-50. I think that you can't have a more 50-50 record than that with the kind of career that he's had. So Eli Manning should be officially nicknamed Mr. 50-50. That's all I'm saying. All right, we got Darrell Lee Owens, that interview coming up. I please invite you guys to stick around because it's a great conversation. We talk about his Packers, Aaron Rodgers. We air out some grievances with that. His thoughts, obviously, on Eli Manning, the Super Bowl, and much, much more. So, without further ado or any more delay, I give to you Mr. Legacy Maker and Mr. Rollback himself, Darrell Lee Owens. Enjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me now is Mr. Rollback himself and a big-time Green Bay Packers fan, but we're not here to rub that in. We're here to talk football, and that's all. It is Darrell Lee Owens. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, Rich. How you doing, brother?
Oh, just living the dream, man. Trying my best. You know how that works, right?
Yeah, man. I'm like, look, man, before we get rolling, I want to just say how proud I am of you, man. All the hard work you've put in the last couple of years since I've known you. And I'm just very proud of all your progress, man, because, you're an inspiration, bro. If you don't know it, you're an inspiration. So just wanted to throw that in there real quick.
Well, I certainly appreciate it. And let me just say, when you set out to start a podcast and basically do one of the most selfish things, which is share your thoughts about everything and expect people to listen, I don't know if you really plan on people being inspired by you, but it has been quite a journey. This is year number 5 for the F.A.N show, and to look back at the differences between year 1 and year 5, even year 5 and year 4, I mean, the kind of progress and stuff that has been done and gone through to get it where it is. I mean, you understand building a brand and nurturing it and going through all the struggle to get it just the way that you want it. So I do appreciate it, but I definitely know that when I first started this thing, that was not the intent, was to inspire. Yeah. But it's a nice bonus for sure.
It is that.
Well, we had ourselves a couple of championship games, AFC, NFC, and of course your Packers played my Niners in the NFC championship game. And I'll be honest, man, I was one of the people that was nervous going into that game. I said there's no way that this game turns out the same way as that Week 12 matchup. And that was kind of the theme for, I think, a lot of media outlets. And although it was 37-20 instead of 38-8, there has been a lot of talk about Aaron Rodgers and if he's really, still Aaron Rodgers. Of course, living in Brett Favre's shadow is no easy feat, especially the way that whole thing went down and how long and drawn out it was. But there's got to be a certain point where you wear the badge that you're the guy with honor, especially in a city like that. Like, looking back at all the years that you've watched and been passionate about the Green Bay Packers, what is it that stands out to you about Aaron Rodgers and maybe his attitude, his demeanor? I mean, just, overall, and has that changed, and have your feelings about it changed?
It's weird because, watching him from the beginning until now, I felt like in the beginning, and obviously he was younger then, and I just felt like his energy as a player had completely changed, and he was determined to prove that he could get out of Brett Favre's shadows, which he did. And I think, he's been very consistent. If you look on the numbers front, the guy doesn't throw interceptions. He throws them, but it's a rarity. His touchdown to interception ratio is probably one of the best all time. if you went and compared, I'm pretty sure he's only got like maybe like 60 picks in his in his career. And so, he's the one thing he has different from Brett Favre is he's very accurate. And he doesn't, like I say, he tend not to make the mistake. The problem is in the last couple of years, I think that, the struggles, the injuries, the 2 collarbone injuries, I think they start to, to wear on you. You may not say it out loud, but I think they wear on one a little bit. But nevertheless, there's still no excuse for the performance that we saw on Sunday. I think that this Packers team, and most people, including myself, and I'll say it, did not think they deserved to be there. I felt like they overachieved all year. I personally had them going 10-6 at the beginning of the year. I thought they would get better. I didn't think they would win 13 games. Have one of the best records against teams over 500. And only 2 losses came to the 49ers. So if you look at those numbers, you're like, oh, they were good. But, they had a lot of close games, a lot of games that shouldn't have went the way they went. Both Detroit games were nail biters. A division opponent, nevertheless. But I look at it overall, and I feel like that the Aaron Rodgers that we got in the beginning is not the one that we're getting now, where I think even though he knows what it means and he hears all the chirps, so when he's only got 1 ring, I just don't know if it's been enough, to really motivate him to take it to win that next one. Now, I don't think it was all him on Sunday. That run defense was garbage. That's the nicest thing that I can say. That's the nicest thing I can say. So, I made a meme on Facebook, or talked about on Facebook. It was like, they had talked about Aaron Rodgers and them not believing in, Christianity. And I was like, this must be why God was upset. And he just spread the Packers defensive line like Moses spread the Red Sea. So I think overall this team they've got a lot of potential, but it's still young and it still can be nurtured. So, but your 49ers team is impressive. They've got potential dynasty written all over them. They just got to find a way to keep it rolling.
Yeah, it'll be a tough matchup for sure. 1.5 is the point spread going into, I think, this first week before the Super Bowl. It could change next week, but they are underdogs. I wouldn't have it any other way. They've been underdogs the entire damn season. I think the only times they were favored were when they played the Falcons and maybe maybe the Rams a second time, but they have not been favorites very often. So it's good. I like it that way. But you mentioned something that's interesting to me as far as compare and contrast. You said Aaron Rodgers only has the 1 ring, and I was thinking, so does Breeze, and they've both been in the league for a while, and yet, there's something about Drew. When he goes out there, he still has that same level of intensity and passion for the game, and it just seems like he's not letting only getting 1 ring get in his way. In fact, that's probably not even how he sees it. Like, oh, I only got 1 ring. He's probably like, I've got a ring. I went out, I was a champion, and as long as I can still play, we'll still be in the conversation about, the odds on us to probably go in and win the championship, because I'm pretty sure that's how it's been for New Orleans the last couple of seasons now. But with Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, it just seems like more and more over the years, you see less and less energy and enthusiasm and passion out of Rodgers, where maybe he looks at it like, well, I've only got the 1 ring, as if it's something else people are going to hold against him. Now, I'm not saying when you're down 27 points going into halftime that you come out, you score a touchdown, and you discount double check in the end zone. That's not what I'm saying. It's just right. People have made a point to say that his demeanor on the sideline and overall just kind of energy and passion for the game doesn't seem to be the same that it was when they went on that Super Bowl run, or even a handful of years after. I do not think that their loss in any way, shape, or form is solely on him. I think what I say on Tuesday, I said maybe 30 to 40% could be placed on him because he's still the quarterback. He's still Aaron Rodgers. But to think that he's the one thing to blame, like it's 90% his fault that they lost, is just ridiculous. So it's an interesting place to be, because obviously there's a lot of promise with that team as far as what they may be able to do with the draft, the offseason, and then, of course, your head coach, LaFleur, his first year as a head coach, goes to the NFC Championship game. I mean, what do you think needs to happen with Green Bay to get them over the hump that is, I guess just playing teams on the West Coast or, playing games where they should be dominating and they're not?
Well, before I jump into that, we'll say about the Breeze and Rodgers thing. I think Breeze doesn't have the pressure that Rodgers has, I think, because everybody compares Rodgers. Everybody thinks Rodgers is the greatest quarterback. Some people think Rodgers is the greatest quarterback that ever played. Some people say he's the best statistically. We can go on that debate for days. I think Drew Brees plays that underdog role where he doesn't get the same heat as Rodgers gets on their front. So I think it makes it a little bit easier for Brees to really enjoy playing the game and not have to maybe stress as much or maybe lose your passion for it as much as Aaron. I mean, that's no excuse. You should always, if you're playing the game and you're getting paid that much money, you gotta keep that fire lit as much as possible. And so with that being said, that always interested me. But this Packers team as a whole, I think one of the biggest things for me is our run defense hasn't been good since 1997. It's just me. I'm not trying to joke too much on the team, but I mean, since that first couple of Super Bowl runs when we had Reggie White incorporated there, team just has not been able to fix the run. And there's maybe one or two seasons where they've been able to stop the run, but that's something I think needs to be a vocal point going in there, because I really do think even though our cornerbacks, our young cornerbacks with Alexander and a Savage, even King was second in the league with 5 interceptions. He was tied with a couple people this year, but he's been around the ball. So that's something that they're going to have to do is fix that defensive line. Then, Blake Martinez, who's led the league and been second each year, he's been in the league in tackles, is a free agent. So they have a big decision to make with him and Kenny Clark. Those are two things that they're going to have to figure out. That's, what they want to do there. Then on the offensive side, I think that they're a lot closer than most people think. Their biggest problem is they need a number 2 receiver. We see in the greatness that Devontae Adams can bring, but he does not have a legit second guy. And I think for Green Bay on the offensive front, they need to find that and find a legitimate person at tight end. Jimmy Graham, has had his run and hasn't been the greatest run in Green Bay. So I don't, and in the way he's talking, it doesn't seem like he's coming back. But we'll see. So I think offensively that needs to happen. Defensively, those things need to happen. And I think, Coach LaFleur blamed, he said that he thought the team didn't have enough energy, going into the game, looking into the game, and, he was a little disappointed in that. But the coach is the person that has to make sure that doesn't happen. I mean, it's hard to control that sometimes, but that needs to happen. But this Green Bay team has a lot of potential, but I know receiver, tight end, and the defensive line, they've got to find a way. The Smith brothers are not, they can't contain the run. They're just pass rushers. They've got to figure something out there.
Fair enough, man. Well, last thing about Rodgers here was something that I brought up on Tuesday, just because every time San Francisco plays Green Bay, it gets brought up. 49ers didn't draft Aaron Rodgers. Now, before I get to the actual point of this question, though, I need to make it very clear to everybody that he is not the only one that has that kind of chip on his shoulder. Because Patrick Mahomes, he has been very, very boisterous about all the teams that took players and or quarterbacks before he finally got picked by KC. Lamar Jackson has used that similar feeling as fuel for his fire as far as all the teams that passed over him before he finally got picked. However, Aaron is the only guy with this particular motivator and chip, and that is that he's not upset that he didn't go number 1 overall. He's not even upset at how late in the first round he went. He's only upset that one team out of 32 did not take him. And so what my thought was, if I'm a Packers fan, I'm a little put off at the fact that 15 years later, that still is apparently a motivator for you. And it's not enough to be a quarterback for one of the greatest franchises in all of football history. It's that you got to go and try to stick it to one team every year. Like, how do you feel about that?
It's a weird thing because like you said, it's kind of one of those things you hear so much. Tom Brady's another person that they throw that about. Oh, he grew up a 49ers fan. He grew up idolizing my team. You hear it all the time. But the Rodgers one it's irritating. And I know Aaron's biggest thing was that he was told that he was going to get drafted by them. He had the indication that he was going to be a San Francisco 49er. I think. And I think he was more embarrassed by the weight than he will lead on. And I think that's probably one of the deciding factors of him being so angry. But you make a good point. I mean, at this point, you've won a Super Bowl without him. You've done so many things. You're a 2-time MVP. You don't need to continue, in my opinion, to soak over it. Then you talk about it this week, leading up to the game, like how important it is to you. And to go out there and we see something completely different. So that, as a Packers fan, drives me insane because I'm just like, you talk about how much it means to you, then you get out here, you're fumbling the football when you're driving with an opportunity, and it just seems like he looked really uncomfortable at times being out there. And it's happened throughout this season because even though they've been winning games, they've relied heavily on Aaron Jones. But there's been a lot of times where he just seems like he hadn't had that trust in his receivers or tight end besides Devontae. And I just look at it and say it does make me sometimes question, where he is mentally. And I've heard it from other Packers fans as well. We've talked about it and wonder, where is he at mentally? So it's a little bit upsetting, to see. And the one example I will give, and I'm going to throw it back, and if you get a chance, Rich, I want you to check this out. If you go back to the 2009 playoff game when the Packers were playing the Cardinals, and they made that dramatic comeback. They ended up falling short, but they made that dramatic comeback. Aaron Rodgers' eyes told a story that I haven't seen in years. I used to be able to look at Aaron Rodgers, whenever the TV shows that up close shot of the quarterback looking around trying to figure out the defense, you could, that game, he had this look in his eye, like, I'm like, yo, we about to come back. We're there by 25, 30. I'm like, we coming back. I see it. And he almost did it, except for that last play. But I haven't seen that look in his eyes in years. And maybe before he won the last MVP, I haven't seen it since then. He would come up to the line and you would see it. And I just think it's gone. I really do think I think he's checking out a little bit, and it's a little sad for me to say.
I don't blame you, man. It would be a weird world without Aaron Rodgers playing quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, or just playing quarterback at all. I mean, talk about Breeze and Brady the last several seasons. Eli Manning is making his exit, but it's not nearly going to be as weird or impactful as if one of those three was to leave the game, as inevitable as it is. I mean, we've been saying that it could have easily been Breeze, Brady, or Rodgers last season, probably for the last 3 or 4. Probably least likely for Aaron than the other two. But the point is that you have this group of phenomenal talent that just know how to win, and they may not be with us in the National Football League for very long. When Peyton Manning left, it was weird. That was a weird season, Yeah,
so I mean, Big Ben's at the rope too.
Yeah, Big Ben is too.
He's been gone this year, and 2-time Super Bowl champ, and he's coming back next year. But it was a really different year. We got to see a lot of young talent kind of like grow up in front of our eyes.
So, last question. Eli, Hall of Fame, yes or no?
All right. So, yes. I think he's a Hall of Famer. First ballot, I don't think he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, if you're into the first ballot thing, he's going to get in. He deserves to get in. 2 rings to be, and the numbers may not be the greatest, but those 2 Super Bowl runs got to mean a little something. Quarterback in this league for 16 years, and he's done some really good stuff in that time frame. People like Kenny Stabler, the guys that had to struggle to get in there, it took them a while. They had rings. I think with this generation, it's going to be a great debate when that time comes. It's going to be a really big debate when that time comes. He deserves to get in, though. I mean, he deserves to get in. I can't say no on that.
I think he will as well. I agree with you on the sentiment of first ballot, probably not, but maybe the next one. And what's funny is that, people like to look at, well, he's got the 2 Super Bowls, and they're both against Tom Brady, but, what else did he do in his career around that? There's a lot of history that he's involved with. The road to that first Super Bowl, when they ruined the Patriots' attempt at a perfect season, they had to go into Green Bay and beat a red-hot Green Bay team, a Brett Favre team that nobody thought could be beat, especially in Lambeau, and they all thought it was going to be Brady and Favre for that Super Bowl. And then, of course, he's had a few other times, coming in as the wild card, and it's just crazy to think about certain moments in history and that Eli Manning's been a part of them. So I think he'll get in for those as well, hopefully.
Yeah, he broke my heart twice. We were that close to that Super Bowl. We've been in a lot of NFC Championship games in the last 25 years. Probably about like 5 or 6, a couple with Brett and, 4 with Aaron. And we've only got maybe like 3 Super Bowls. I guess I can't, cry about that. I mean, but, in that time frame, he came in there and he dominated us in that second one, in that divisional matchup, where he came in and the Giants just demolished Green Bay. They didn't even show up. I'm like, we were 15-1. 15-1. And I said, this guy right here. So a couple years ago when we played him in the playoffs, I'm like, nope. And we won, thank goodness. But I was just like, man, Eli Manning and Green Bay is a bad deal. So it's a bad deal. So, but he deserves to get in, man. I mean, it's just, you look at it all around, the numbers, the interceptions. I think one year like a 25 interception season or something like that, and people will knock him on that. But he still kept the Giants relevant for a long time.
Yep, that's very true.
So he's going to get in. I personally don't think it should be first ballot, but we'll see what the teams look like and who's going to be up for grabs around that time too. So.
All right, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time. It's been a lot of fun talking to you. And for those of you that don't know, he is Mr. Rollback, Darrell Lee Owens of the Legacy Maker Sports Network, man. And I love all the stuff you're doing there. I know you got some big plans for 2020, so you keep grinding, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you, Rich, man. I can't wait to see you in action this year, brother.
It's going to be a fun time, man, for sure. Hopefully we can try and get you to Sioux Falls sometime this year.
Hey, that'd be nice. I'd check it out.
All right, man. You take care of yourself. Have a good night.
All right, take care.
And one more big thank you to Darrell Lee Owens, Mr. Rollback, a.k.a. the Legacy Maker himself, for being my guest here on episode 445 of the award-winning Fan Show. So once again, my little plug here, go to inlander.com, INLANDER.com/best of to vote for the Fan Show under the arts category for best local podcast. Probably be the last and only time that the Fan Show will technically be eligible to receive this award, and it's after years of hounding them saying, hey, add this category for God's sakes. It is 2020, and they finally get it done. So remember, you can follow us on Twitter at FanShowOfficial, like us on Facebook. Hopefully you're watching the live broadcast there, facebook.com/FanShowOfficial, and then Instagram is The Fan Show. There's a YouTube channel. Links are all over the place, so go and check that out. Subscribe and check it out because it's got a lot of great content as well. And remember, it's not official unless it's Fan Show official, and we are officially out of here. So Fan Nation, you are beautiful. Have a great last weekend of the first month of 2020. That's right, January is coming to an end. We've got all the Super Bowl talk you can handle next week with 2 all-new episodes of the Fan Show. So until next time, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and remember, of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's blood? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.